Hello everyone, Willie Soto here, bringing you another valuable video to all my owners and friends. But most importantly, I hope you find yourselves healthy and safe wherever you may be. I know tomorrow is Easter Sunday. Typically, we would be spending it with loved ones, but it may be a little difficult due to the circumstances we're in. I also hope that I bring a ton of value with this video, and we did create this platform to continue to keep you up to date and informed on current events and situations that are happening around us, but also to continue to put a face to who you're working with. I do ask all the owners and all my friends to please subscribe to this channel and share if I bring any value. Also, you know how to get in contact with me. If you have any questions, I'm still available. You can call me, you can text me, or email me. Just in case, my phone number is 626-246-4686. So moving on to what I want to talk about today are the executive orders that were signed late March by our governor, which is Executive Order N3720 and N2820, which they're both very similar. We've gotten a bunch of information about these two executive orders, but I received an email yesterday from the Department of Real Estate, which is the governing body of all real estate brokers out there. And I thought it was pretty informative. They really broke it down. They made it very simple for people to understand. And here it is. It was a few pages. So I'm not going to go over everything. I'm just going to highlight what I felt was important. And I felt maybe I can bring a little bit of value to my viewers and to the owners and to my friends. So here we go. And also answer frequently asked questions. Okay, so once again, the body of the email talks about the background, the context of what we're dealing in today with COVID-19. But most importantly, let's talk about the first executive order, which is N3720, which was signed on March 27, 2020 by our Governor Gavin Newsom. Okay, pretty much what it talks about in a nutshell is a statewide moratorium on evictions of certain tenants and residents or dwelling units for non-payment of rent. Basically, tenants are protected with this order. However, they have to meet certain requirements. A lot of those requirements, I've already pretty much talked about them on other videos on what we required our tenants. But obviously, this just solidified what we were already looking for. So I'm going to go over it just really quick. In order for them to qualify, they must meet these requirements. They must have paid the rent due to the landlord prior to the executive order. What does that mean? So that means that they should have paid their rent for March, okay, prior. So this was signed March 27th. So they should have paid for March. That qualifies that tenant, okay? I know April, we had a really good month in collections. So excuse me. So once again, it may just continue. But that would qualify a tenant for this executive order. And I'll talk about those tenants that perhaps didn't pay you the rent in March and you did not take action as a landlord. Our company, we really didn't experience any delinquencies in March, probably zero, maybe one, somebody paying late. Other than that, everybody's been in touch and we're in communication. Another requirement, they must notify the landlord in writing either before the rent is due or within 7 days afterward. Again, those are pretty much standard things that we've already talked about. So once again, solidifying what we were already doing. What are the I guess you want to call them excuses or requirements? Pretty much inability to work, tenant was sick, or was caring for a household member or family member. Obviously, layoffs, loss of hours, or other loss of income resulting in COVID-19. Loss of work hours in order to care for a child, or if their child obviously was sent home. All of California, no children are going to school right now. So if a parent was affected due to their child staying home and they can't work, this also covers them. Also, the required tenants must have verifiable documentation, which is what we've been asking all our tenants, that they verify their situation with some sort of documentation as well. However, what does this order also include? It does not relieve tenants from having to pay their rent, or does not restrict landlords' ability to recover that rent that is due. What does that mean? Obviously, if somebody's affected, we're not going to be able to collect right away. I'm going to discuss what just happened on April 6th. So you're going to have to work with your tenants right now, okay? And I think I've already gone over some of the options that we've provided our tenants that have experienced some hardship or that will experience some hardship. So all we want to do right now is work with our tenants. Stay in touch, communicate, okay? It also does not prevent a landlord from evicting someone who is engaging in criminal activity or poses a danger to other tenants. So that's also very important to know. So if you have a problem tenant, you could still right now evict them. The only thing you can't evict them for is non-payment of rent, okay? So moving on to the next executive order, which is N2820. It basically builds on with the executive order. And I'm just highlighting what these executive orders, what it covers for us as landlords. I know there's a lot of within the executive order, it covers mortgages and other items, but I'm just highlighting what's important for landlords and managers. Okay, so N2820 builds on basically what it is. It's the same order as N3720, but it removes barriers faced by city and county governments wishing to impose limitations on residential or commercial evictions. Basically, what that means is that now a city or local county can have their own guidelines. They could create some guidelines for additional moratoriums on evictions for residential and commercial tenants. And again, executive order suspends any state law that would otherwise prevent a local government from imposing limitations or moratoriums on certain types of residential or commercial evictions. Once again, just re-verifies. What does it do? It doesn't, once again, this order doesn't relieve tenants from having to pay their rent, whether they're commercial or residential. They're still going to have to pay the rent, and it also doesn't prevent a landlord from evicting someone that's engaging in criminal activity. So that's all it does. N28, it's more specific to local government or county. With the frequently asked questions, it'll kind of clarify the difference between N28, Executive Order N2820 and Executive Order N3720. So here we go. Let's start with the first question. How does the Executive Order N2820 enable local governments to protect residents and tenants beyond protections provided by Executive Order N3720? Executive Order N2820 suspends any state law that would prevent a local government from imposing limitations on certain types of residential and commercial evictions arising from COVID-19 pandemic. The suspension of the state laws only applies to local government. Limit on evictions if a tenant is unable to, once again, pay the rent because of the pandemic, and once again they have to show proof. Another question that's frequent: does Executive Order N2820 or Executive Order N3720 relieve tenants from having to pay rent? Once again, they're confirming no. Neither executive order relieves the tenant obligation. Okay, and we're gonna get into how do you take action after all this. Okay, so I'll go over that. Another question that's important: where a local government has imposed an eviction moratorium consistent with N2820, is the tenant required to provide documentation? Basically, the simple answer is yes. They have to be able to furnish any documentation or proof that they've been affected, whether it's a residential or commercial property. Okay. Moving forward to additional questions is: does Executive Order N2820 or Executive Order N37 prevent a landlord from evicting someone who is engaging in criminal activity or who poses a danger to tenants? No, however, any such eviction must comply. So again, you confirming that if you have a troubled tenant, whether it's commercial or residential, and they are engaged in criminal activities or being a nuisance or a danger to the community, you could in fact continue your eviction. Okay. And then this other one has the Judicial Council of California State Sheriff's Association been formally notified of these state orders and its requirements? It says yes, but once again, this council on April 6th basically did an emergency ruling where you cannot evict anybody. Right now, you will not be able to evict anybody for non-payment of rent. Or if you file, you could actually file an eviction, but your eviction's not going to get far because of a tenant. Typically, after you file the unlawful detainer, they have between 5 to 10 days to respond. And right now, they don't have to respond because they're not going to take your case. They're pretty much thrown out the door right now. The earliest you would be able to revisit this this eviction or this file is perhaps 60 days after this pandemic. I mean, it's going to take some time. So those owners that are in the process or were in the process, communicate with your tenant. The best solution is work with them, talk to them, see how you can figure this out for them. Because right now, it's even gotten as far that, you know, if any tenant doesn't pay after the May 31st, when Governor Newsom says that this stay at home safe is over, for 90 days they don't have to pay their rent for an additional 90 days, and you cannot evict them for that. So again, it's important that you work with your tenants, communicate with them, you know, work with them 110%. I can't stress that enough, that communication is key during these times, and letting them know that you're there, you're going to help them. And there's going to be tenants certainly that will take advantage of the situation, but for the most part, I know a lot of them understand, and as long as you're working with them. Okay. Here's another question. If a city wants to prohibit evictions in cases where a tenant has contracted COVID-19 or needs care for someone who's contracted COVID-19. Yeah. So again, with the executive order N2820, pretty much a city can, you know, customize, and they can in fact prevent those cases from moving forward. Okay. But obviously, I'm sure they would have to go through council and voting and whatever the city does. Another question: if city wants to stop all evictions, they can do that completely and definitely. They would have to take a vote on it. So these are possibilities that can happen. Another question: executive order N2820 affect any eviction or moratorium put in place before March 16th. So that pretty much talks about what just happened right now with the Judicial Council of California. Yeah, any eviction that was happening since January all the way up until March 16th is pretty much delayed. And it's probably going to get delayed 60 days even after this pandemic, because the courts are just going to be so overturned right now with people, and they're going to be jam-packed. So you're going to have a lot of patience, a lot of cash for keys, and we'll discuss those options as well, that you may have to work with tenants that are doing pretty much for no payment. And yeah, and the answer is the suspension of state laws applies to the imposition of limitations of residential and commercial evictions since March 4th of 2020. So it just pushes everything back. Additional questions that I've received as well is delinquent tenants, anybody that hasn't paid the rent or is paying late, do we stop repairs? Absolutely not. We cannot stop repairs for non-payment of rent, especially if it's an essential repair that needs to get done. We have to, and we're not going to hold on to any repairs because, oh, you haven't paid your rent or you're late. None of that. We cannot do that. We got to make sure that we're still maintaining and taking care of the property. It's not only for the good of the property, but for the health and safety of the tenants, and obviously moving forward with good relationships and communication with all our tenants. Okay. Another question that I received quite a bit is, what can I do as an owner? As an owner, pretty much for non-payment of rent or during the situation, really nothing other than work with your tenant. That's all I can advise you. Work with them, you know, be there for them. I'm not saying literally, you know, but just, hey, let them know you understand. But if you're not working with a management company, again, I'm an expert at communication. I'm an expert at dealing with people, and I always tell this to everybody that I work with. I don't manage property. If I did, it'd be a very easy job. What I manage people. I deal with people's lives, so I understand the situation. I know there may be a lot of owners that get frustrated, that want to get things done now, but unfortunately, that's not the world that we're living in. So with that being said, I'm still here for you, for all my owners, all my friends, and of course, all my tenants, to make sure that we keep this machine well oiled and running properly. But once again, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great day.